In the winter of 1977, a young African-American photographer named Marilyn Nance made her first trip out of the country to Lagos, Nigeria. I learned to speak in the third person. To serve as a photographer for the North American zone of Festac 77, the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, attended by more than 17,000 participants. Festac 77 was significantly the largest cultural event ever held on the African continent, and witnessed the largest number of African Americans to ever travel from North America to Africa, a symbolic reversal of the transatlantic slave trade. So I made these images in 30 days. They've been largely unseen and never exhibited as a group, never published as a group, maybe occasionally one or two. And I've been taking the photographs around to several conferences. And this is a second conference that I've been to. I presented at the Black Arts Movement Conference, and I'll be presenting next month at the Black Portraitures Conference. I'm very honored to be here. Very lucky, because it's just by chance, if you believe in chance, that I'm here today. Because Festac was such a large festival, in talking about it, I had to decide on what I was going to focus on. So what I'm going to do is a negotiation between economy and excess. And here's the economic part. Festac was the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture. And it's pretty much what I said, the largest event. This image has become the iconic image of Festac. Once it got on the internet, it was used worldwide to signify what Festac looked like. It's my image, I made it, and I made a postcard of it shortly after I returned back to the US. Someone digitized it, put it online, and there it went. And this was the Nigerian delegation, and yes, those are people in the background. There were, I was part of a contingent of more than 400 African-American artists, and I mean, upon questioning, we can talk about how I became part of that contingent. The artists were people who there was a range. I was on the lower end of the age range. I was like 22 or 23. Most of the artists were 30, 40, 50, and some who are still alive are in their 80s and 90s. And, well, so this is coming off the plane, not in Nigeria, but we made a stop in Madrid. And I don't know how many people have heard of Queen Mother Moore. This is Queen Mother Moore, who was like proclaiming, we're in Africa. If you know, look, you all have smartphones. Look up Queen Mother Moore. And this was actually the second American contingent. The first contingent, which I came on, I actually overstayed my visit, but the first American contingent did not even have anything that looked like a uniform. And this group is Wajumbe out of Chicago, who led the American contingent in the second, no, this is actually the closing of Festac. So there was an opening and a closing. Many of the artists you never heard of, though you should have. So I've named my project Art History because, I was an art student. We never learned about the Black arts movement, and I'm not sure if it's being taught about now, but some of these artists are people whose names you should know, so that's why I have them listed there. So, not only can I say them, but it's good to just see the names and, jot them down and look them up and wonder why you may not have known about them. So what this speaks to is like the hidden archives and the hidden knowledge, what you have come to know, what you don't know. So I want these people to be known, and I'm including me in these people, right? As Jeff Donaldson. Now, all of the photographs of the artists were taken at Festac, But the backgrounds, I was like applying for grants, and they said, well, we want your work to be recent, and this was done 40 years ago. So I worked with my daughter, who has like extreme digital talents, and we found the works of the artists, and we colorized, and I say we, but she did the work. But I directed her. So this is Jeff Donaldson, who is from Howard University. Oh God, there's more to be said about Jeff Donaldson. Look him up. So that's what the business card is almost like a pointer. It's not everything, and this is not going to be everything. It's just something to jettison you into more research. But Jeff Donaldson was one of the members of Afro-Cobra out of Chicago. He was the head of the art department at Howard University, and that's where Festac 77 in the North American zone was organized from. And he was the head of the North American zone. Charles Searles is another artist from who was out of Philadelphia. Both Jeff Donaldson and Charles Searles are now deceased, and I just found out that Jeff Donaldson's papers are in the Smithsonian, so that's good to know. Joseph Delaney, this is on the plane probably to Nigeria. Ellsworth Osby is another artist out of New York who's also deceased. Juba Douglas, oh my God, everybody, this is one of my buddies. We were the young people, and we conspired to get each other on the trip. We filled out papers, we submitted work together, because that was one of the tenets of the Black arts movement, where you collectively did things to engage and move each other forward. And somewhere along the timeline, that didn't happen. Charlotte Carr is still with us. Samela Lewis, who is a historian and an artist, wrote many books, encyclopedic books about Black artists. All of these people were at Festac. I mean, it was like the most amazing crew of people. Valerie Maynard, printmaker, sculptor, painter, designer. I know Valerie because I was an art student at Pratt Institute, and we had no African-American instructors, so I took printmaking at the Studio Museum in Harlem with Valerie Maynard, so she was my instructor, and we're still in contact now. We both presented at the Black Arts Movement Conference in New Orleans, and we're on the same panel, which I organized we're going to be on the same panel in Johannesburg. Valerie Maynard, I contend, is the heart and soul of the Black arts movement. And how many people have heard her name before? 4. That's a shame, So I want to address that. These are my elders. Charles Abramson, also deceased. He's an artist from, he did, well, I won't look him up. Carol Bayard, Tyrone Mitchell, Winnie Owens, Frank Smith, Valerie Maynard. Ohenero was one of our protocol, very British in Nigeria, and he was a guide, pretty much. Ademola Lugbefola, Napoleon Jones Henderson. Yeah.
I have an image of him in my show.
Good. And so I've been showing this work to a lot of people, inviting people to come to my studio, because their names, their faces that I know, and faces that I don't know. Napoleon, I didn't know before then, but he makes sure that you get to know him. Sun Ra was there, so I have Sun Ra stories. Stevie Wonder came to the Festac Village one night, and with Hakeem Adubudi and Jeff Donaldson and Louis Farrakhan. And we were on the bus going to the opening ceremony. There were throngs of Nigerian people waiting to get into the stadium. Who knew that Nigeria had a navy, And so for the last 40 years, I had contact sheets. And, so each image was tiny, and you have to look through a loop, and I'm getting older. And one of the things I realized that I was a young person, I was 22, 23, and I had this idea. I have a background in graphic design. I had an idea about what makes like the best photograph, and I only printed those images. But in my wisdom now, I realize that there are things in between. So this year, I printed every single image that I shot, every single black and white image that I shot. And so that's represented, that's going to be represented in the running slideshow. But this just represents like the almost impossibility of seeing this. So this presentation itself is a negotiation between economy, which is a slideshow, and excess, which is all of the images. And not only do I have images, but I have like memorabilia and all kinds. Festac toilet tissue, I have a Festac scarf, Festac t-shirt, Festac cups. I mean, I had to throw things away before I came home because I had so much Festacabilia, or whatever you. And so there's a Festac page on Facebook, Festac 77 Archive. So periodically I slide different things in. I'm always collecting money. You're welcome to donate, right? It's my email. And that's it. Thank you, everyone.